Well, one thing I've discovered
Oh.
after I met you in East Africa, I traveled to West Africa too. I was in Nigeria, and I met a chief imam of a mosque, and I didn't know how important he was. But then later I discovered that he had his convoy of cars, and he had Z-level security, like the thing that a prime minister has. He has so many gunmen around him wherever he travels.
Wow.
And he has a state car with flags, and wherever he goes, thousands strong. But then I met him in very strange circumstances. I just walked into a mosque and I didn't know it was where he would be. I had with me some books which were comparisons between Islam and Vaishnavism, Vedic culture, and then I just met him by chance. He was very approachable. I just spoke to him. Turned out that he was very educated. He spoke fluent English. He had been to Egypt and a lot of other places and had schooled in Islamic culture and in the Quran, the Hadith. And he was such an amazing personality, like he was really a man of God. Very approachable, humble, knowledgeable, nice, so many good qualities. Just that when you mentioned about the fathers, Father John and Father Renaud.
Renatus.
Yeah, Renatus, when you mentioned them, I was just remembering this person too. So it's so wonderful that people, it doesn't matter which faith they come from, whether they're Christians, whether they're Muslims, Buddhists, or anyone, if they are sincere seekers of the absolute truth of God, they would have good qualities in them, and they would not be envious or judgmental. They would very easily welcome a fellow seeker and try to learn and try to share their own experiences. Would you like to mention some other interesting stories that you have come across? Some other nice experiences that you've had? You said you were in Nepal, in so many places in your life.
I was in Nepal not as a devotee, although we were in Nepal from 72 to 74 on account of my father's work, and my favorite class was Nepali culture. The teacher was a black American woman named Max. She was a Buddhist monk.
Okay.
I don't think she wore her monk clothing, but she was our favorite educator. And she just gave us a very basic preliminary understanding of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva.
I see.
We were 9-10 years old, so what really... what interest would a 9-10-year-old kid have in that kind of information? But it was just a very topical presentation. So nothing really to report as far as any kind of spiritual pastimes or activities in Nepal. We were young at the time. But going back to Tanzania when I was with Madhu Mangal again, this is back in the same area of Mwanza.
Okay.
The details are a little bit sketchy, so anyway. We had another Indian devotee with us, Ram Gaur, who was just here within the last 2 weeks. Ram Gaur and I had gone out for something. We left Madhu Mangal in a Land Rover. And Madhu Mangal, he was very outgoing, but he was also a little bit emotional. He could easily get a little bit upset. And it was a little oversight on my part because I had left him in a Land Rover. And he was very spontaneous. So it was very easy for him to get out of the vehicle and just get everybody chanting Hare Krishna, wherever he was. He had distributed one of our books, Science of Self-Realization, to somebody who turned out to be a Muslim. And the person was, leafing through the book, and he happened to see all these pictures, and one of the pictures had pictures of Shaligram Shila. That's something you explained, or you can explain that at some point. And obviously something like this is not going to sit very well with Muslims.
Worship of a stone.
Yes.
Well, for those of you who don't know what a Shaligram Shila is, a Shaligram Shila is usually black in color, and they can be small or large size stones, and they have various markings. Some of them have markings which resemble a disc, which represents Sudarshana. So there are like these cuts. It looks like a saw blade, a circular saw blade. And there are all kinds of marks, and experts in Vaishnava tradition, they know which shaligram represents which form of the Lord. So the shaligram is considered the form of the Lord, and the Lord is present. And usually they are found in a river called the Gandaki in Nepal. It's very hard to get there, and it's only those who are really fortunate can receive a shaligram and worship it. Worship him, not it. It's not a stone. So, and since usually people who follow the Islamic religion, they don't believe in worshipping objects or pictures or forms, they probably would have taken objection. But
although
never,
they have the Kaaba though, don't
exactly.
they? Exactly. Right.
So I was just thinking the same thing, that the sacred Kaaba, I mean, we also offer great respects to the Kaaba, which is in Mecca. And the Kaaba is also, if I understand, a huge black stone. Yes, and that place is considered a very sacred place for the worship of all Muslims all over the world. So another thing that I'm reminded about, because when I used to travel in Africa in many places, there were many places where there were no temples and no devotees or Vaishnavas. But then I had the chance to make friends with Muslims.
Oh, good for you.
And some of them were very pious. And I would go with them to the mosque. And I would offer namaz with them. And some of them...
Dressed like this?
No, I would dress in whatever clothes. Sometimes I would dress like this, but usually I was dressed...
street clothes.
In street clothes,
right.
in normal wear. And I would go with them and offer... They knew my religion, they knew my culture. But they were very nice and welcoming, and I would offer namaz with them. I was offering namaz in Sri Lanka with some friends, in Madagascar, and it was a great experience. Very sincerely they would pray, and some of them really did it 5 times a day. I would get a chance to do it 2 to 3 times a day with them, but I really enjoyed the experience. Similar to my experiences when I was in Switzerland, I had to be there in Lucerne for a couple of months, and there were no temples in Lucerne. And I would visit the churches, and I would pray there, and I would see other people who genuinely prayed, and they genuinely prayed, and you could feel it. I mean, the presence of the Lord was palpable.
Well, Prabhupada said that in Ishopanishad, that you get sincere practitioners going to temples, churches, and mosques.
Exactly.
So
you were telling me about this Muslim who saw the Shaligram.
Yeah,
yes.
I had just returned with Ram Gaur to Madhumangal, and he was visibly upset sitting in the car. A large group of people gathered around him. I asked him, Madhu, what's the situation here? He said, well, everything was fine. The person was leafing through the book, and then he came across this picture of Shaligram Shila, and he said he spoke no Swahili. The person who was reading the book spoke no English. They were kind of like at an impasse. It was a checkmate, and it was becoming a very uncomfortable situation. And
it could have become violent.
It could have become violent.
Okay.
You know, under the best of circumstances. So I walked into a hot potato, you know, so to speak. I have a very rudimentary understanding of Swahili. I can string together some words to make my point somewhat understandable. So I thought there has to be a way to get ourselves out of this one. So I identified and I isolated the one person who had the power to pacify everybody or whip everybody into a very frenzied state. So I kind of took him aside. I said, look, you know, this is what's happening here. I took out this Science of Self-Realization book, and in there's a wonderful chapter called Krishna Consciousness, Hindu Cult or Divine Culture. And I thought, this is so good. This could put an uneasy mind of anybody to rest. If anybody has any concerns as to whether or not we're bona fide religion or whatever it is, or a cult that just sprang up out of nowhere, this will put all those worries to rest. So I thought I'd give him somewhat of an elevated status. So I opened the car door and I made sure that he was sitting in the driver's seat. So he was chief among among everybody else. So I had him read out loud in Swahili to the masses of people that gathered around the cars. And after about 3 to 5 minutes, the crowd gradually got pacified, everybody dissipated, and we were on our way. So I told Madhumangal, I said, I think we have to be very selective as to what books we give to who. We have to know our audiences. So I said, maybe we should just take these books and remove this page, you know, out of... I felt a little badly for it, but at the same time, I was thinking about the end result. I thought, well, if this is what we have to do in order to help people get past their initial prejudices and biases, so be it. So we took out all the pages of the books and we continued distributing.
What is surprising is we all acknowledge, irrespective of religion, that
Right.
God is there everywhere.
Yeah,
If God is there everywhere, why can't He be present in a piece of stone?
that's a good point.
Why can't
Daru
he be-
Brahma, isn't that what they call it?
Daru Brahma is a piece
Yes.
of wood.
Yes, right.
Yes, Jagannath.
Yeah.
So if God is present everywhere,
Right.
why can't He be present in a picture? Why can't He be present in the form that we worship in the temple? Or in a shaligram?
He's not limited.
He's not limited, He's unlimited.
Right.
And when we say that He's not present here, He's not present there, we are limiting Him.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something that people can think about.
Mm-hmm.
That God is present everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and if we sincerely seek Him,
Mm-hmm.
He can appear anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember this example that Prabhupada used to say, that when he spoke especially with the Muslims, with the Christians, the people of other faiths, he said, I am not here to convert you.
Mm-hmm.
I am here to make you a better Christian, a better Muslim, a better Jew, or whatever religion you practice.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you have to do is do it more intensely, do it with more sincerity, and do it with more feeling to the Lord. And like it says in the Bible, love thy Lord
Mm-hmm.
with all thy heart, with all thy soul.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So the point is this, that usually we want to reinforce our own faith in God by trying to deny that someone else hasn't real faith. But it isn't a test of who is right. Like sometimes we see that the it's not like a race. Religion is not like a race, like the person who runs faster than everybody else wins, or the one who pushes the others down and then climbs up, he wins, and he wins the favor of the Lord. He wins the favor of God. One who by his own purity can please the Lord and give pleasure to the Lord and make the Lord feel that yes, this person, he sincerely loves me
Mm-hmm.
and he loves my creation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that he hates the others, he hates those whom I created, but he loves me and he equally loves my creation because it's my creation, it's God's creation. So if there's someone who has made a painting and he's put in a lot of hard work into the painting, and if you say this painting is completely crap, it's no use and I hate it, you wouldn't really please the person. So this universe has been created and crafted by the Lord
Mm-hmm.
with love.
Mm-hmm.
It's a labor of love in one sense.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we hate our fellow citizens, the fellow human beings, and also how can we hate the other animals and birds that inhabit this world?
Everybody's our brother and our sister.
Yes.
Some of us are in brown skin, some of us have a beard, some of us don't. Some of us have a red turban, and some of us want a red turban, but they don't have one yet.
Yeah, irrespective of
That's right, yeah.
what we wear, what
Yeah.
we eat, and what we are,
Right.
we are dear to the Lord.
Yes.
And some of us may be, misled into
Mhm.
thinking certain things,
Mm.
but yet the Lord loves us.
Mm. No discrimination on his side.
Yes, just like a father and mother, they love all their children.
Right.
Maybe they love the child who is making more mistakes more because they're concerned. I guess it's similar in terms of how the Lord feels for us. So this concept of hating another says this person doesn't believe in what I believe, so I have to hate him, I have to maim him, I have to kill him. It isn't required. In one sense, it's also not required to convert someone.
Because violence toward a fellow human being is violence to God.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think the Lord would condone
Mm-mm.
harm to anybody
Mm-mm,
else.
mm-mm.
And these are the same lessons that I learned when I met religious leaders from any religion, whether they're Hindu, whether they're Buddhist, even Islamic or Christians. Those who sincerely, had faith in the Lord, by whatever name they called him, whether it was Allah, whether it was Yahweh, or whether it was Jesus or Buddha or Krishna, every one of them said that the Lord loves everybody, and we should also learn to love everyone, be compassionate. And
There's a lot of common ground in there.
yes,
And that's the problem. We don't focus on the common ground.
yes, we
We
focus on
the
differences.
external differences.
Yes.
So,
And the other thing that I discovered is the more we focus on things which are not the Lord or connected to the Lord, we distance ourselves from God.
Mhm.
If we can see the commonalities in others and we can learn to love others, then our minds are more peaceful, less insecure,
Mhm.
and we have more time to dedicate to think about the person we really need to think about, who is God. But when we focus on differences, then it only creates irritation, hate, anger,
And we cannot think about the welfare of all.
and we cannot think about God.
Mm.
We waste our time in thinking about external things,
Mhm.
whereas we should be actually thinking about God in that time.
God and His creation,
Yes,
His parts and parcels.
yes.
That's true.